he loved it. So that became our ritual.
And people were otherwise kind of on edge or terrified of him.
People were really careful.
Of the trade, but more than anything, you just go on a wild ride with both of those movies, and I just love them.
Ron Howard has lived in Hollywood longer than most people have been alive. He started as Opie on The Andy Griffith Show when he was 6 years old. By the time he directed his first film, he'd already spent 20 years watching how great performers operated.
And action.
I thought today was a huge improvement.
Are you nuts?
Play to each other. Are you nuts?
That gave him something rare in Hollywood, perspective from both angles. Standing on set as a kid, I learned to read actors before I learned to direct them, Howard once said.
I sure do. How could I ever forget? It's like seared into my brain. Oh man, it's a great story.
Most directors study film theory or stage technique. Howard studied survival. He watched legendary performers handle pressure, fame, and the brutal honesty of the camera lens. When Howard moved behind the camera, he brought that understanding with him. He knew what actors needed because he'd needed those same things himself. The calm during chaos, the trust when nothing's working, the freedom to fail without judgment. These 7 actors gave Howard something beyond brilliant performances.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem. We have a main bus being...
They showed him possibilities he hadn't imagined. They challenged his assumptions about what film acting could be. Some became longtime collaborators. Others crossed his path just once, but left permanent marks. Here are the performers Ron Howard respects above all others, not just for their talent, but for teaching him how to be a better director. 7. Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe scared Ron Howard at first, but not for the reasons people might think.
You do have a name.
My name is Gladiator.
When they started working on A Beautiful Mind, Howard knew Crowe's reputation for being difficult. What he discovered instead was an actor who cared so deeply about getting it right that he'd fight for every detail.
Tom Hanks or Russell Crowe?
Oh, depends on the casting. 2 great artists, but there's just something special in that friendship.
Russell doesn't challenge you because he's stubborn, Howard explained. He challenges you because he's already living inside that character's head. Crowe arrived on set having studied schizophrenia for months. He'd talked to mathematicians, visited hospitals, and built John Nash from the inside out. Howard had never seen that level of preparation. What impressed Howard most was Crowe's courage with vulnerability. Playing a genius losing his grip on reality could have been showy or melodramatic. Crowe made it intimate and heartbreaking instead. He wasn't afraid to look confused, scared, or broken. That takes guts most action heroes don't have. Crowe taught Howard that difficult actors aren't always problematic. Sometimes they're just protective of the truth they're trying to create.
Yeah, Russell was, a member of a very short list, and Brian and I...
When Crowe pushed back on a scene, it wasn't ego. It was instinct telling him something felt wrong. Howard learned to listen to those instincts. Their collaboration won Crowe an Oscar and taught Howard a valuable lesson. The best actors don't make your job easier. They make your film better, even when that means uncomfortable conversations. 6. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks became Ron Howard's secret weapon, though neither of them planned it that way. Their partnership started with Splash in 1984, when Hanks was still known mostly for comedy.
Shut up! I am a scientist!
Howard saw something else beneath the jokes. He saw an actor who could make audiences believe in anything, even mermaids.
Tom's having to do his angle, and I start trying to talk him through the action, and I go, there's a drone, and it's coming.
Tom has this gift of making the impossible feel ordinary, Howard said. Put him in a space capsule or chasing ancient symbols, and suddenly it all feels like it could happen to your neighbor. That quality became essential to Howard's storytelling. He makes big concepts feel human-sized. What makes their partnership work is efficiency. After 5 films together, they developed a language that didn't require words. Howard could give Hanks a slight nod, and Hanks would adjust his performance without needing explanation. That kind of shorthand saves time and preserves energy for the hard problems. Hanks taught Howard that great leading men don't dominate scenes. They anchor them. In Apollo 13, Hanks could have played the hero's journey with grand gestures. Instead, he played a professional doing his job under impossible circumstances. That restraint made the danger feel more real. Howard keeps returning to Hanks because trust is currency in filmmaking. When you know exactly what you're getting, you can take risks everywhere else. 5. Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton showed Ron Howard what happens when you let chaos into the system and trust it to create something beautiful. Their first collaboration on Night Shift proved that Keaton operated on a different frequency than most actors.
I don't know what that means. 2. Okay, 2. Tit. And shun, of course.
He'd take a simple scene and find 17 different ways to make it interesting. Michael doesn't follow the script like a map, Howard observed. He treats it like a suggestion and then finds shortcuts nobody else would think to take. Keaton would improvise lines, invent physical comedy, and somehow never lose the emotional core of what the scene needed.
1 or 2 movies, but early in my career, there was a subplot that I just loved.
That balance is nearly impossible to achieve. What amazed Howard was Keaton's range. People saw him as a comedian, but Howard recognized dramatic depth hiding behind the humor. Keaton could break your heart in the middle of making you laugh. That duality became crucial for Howard's understanding of casting against type. Keaton taught Howard to embrace the unexpected on set. Not every surprise is a disaster. Sometimes an actor goes off script and discovers something better than what was written. The director's job isn't to control that energy. It's to recognize when lightning strikes and capture it. Howard learned from Keaton that the wildest choices often lead to the most honest moments. 4. Ed Harris. Ed Harris taught Ron Howard that some actors approach their work like engineers solving complex problems.
Beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges. The ones on the limb are round.
When Harris joined Apollo 13 as Gene Kranz, he didn't just memorize lines. He studied flight dynamics, talked to NASA personnel, and understood every technical detail his character would have known. Ed builds characters the way builders construct houses, Howard explained. Foundation first, then walls, then all the details that make it livable. Harris never took shortcuts. If his character wore a specific vest in real life, Harris wanted that exact vest. If Kranz had a certain way of standing in mission control, Harris found that posture and made it his own. What struck Howard most was Harris's reliability. Some brilliant actors have off days or need extra takes to find their rhythm. Harris showed up fully prepared every single morning. He knew his lines, understood his character's mindset, and delivered consistent excellence take after take. Harris showed Howard that research isn't about showing off knowledge. It's about building confidence so deep that you can forget your acting. When Harris spoke technical NASA language in Apollo 13, he wasn't reciting dialogue. He was communicating as someone who genuinely understood those systems. Howard learned from Harris that preparation creates freedom, not limitation. 3. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington taught Ron Howard something profound without them ever working together extensively.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker, I couldn't hear you. What did...
Howard watched Washington's career from the director's chair of other projects, studying how some actors command respect simply by existing in a scene. Washington doesn't grab attention. Attention finds him naturally. Denzel has this quality that can't be taught or faked, Howard said. When he enters a frame, everyone else instinctively understands the hierarchy. Not because he demands it, but because he earns it with every choice he makes. Howard noticed that Washington never wastes energy proving himself. He simply inhabits his roles with such authority that doubt becomes impossible. What fascinated Howard was Washington's ability to balance strength with tenderness. In films like Glory and Malcolm X, Washington could deliver fierce intensity in one scene and quiet vulnerability in the next. Both felt equally authentic. That emotional range without visible effort impressed Howard deeply. Washington showed Howard what true screen presence looks like. It's not about being the loudest or most dramatic. It's about making every moment count, every line land with purpose. Even Washington's silences communicate volumes. Howard learned from watching Washington that some actors don't need direction because they've already found the truth before cameras roll. 2. Daniel Bruhl. Daniel Bruhl surprised Ron Howard in ways he didn't expect. When casting Rush, Howard needed someone to play Niki Lauda, the Austrian Formula One driver known for brutal honesty and technical genius. Bruhl transformed so completely that Howard sometimes forgot he was directing an actor. Daniel didn't just study Lauda's mannerisms, Howard recalled. He absorbed the man's entire psychology, his accent, his brutally logical way of seeing the world. Bruhl spent months researching, watching race footage, and understanding what made Lauda tick. By the time filming began, Lauda himself said Bruhl had captured him perfectly. What impressed Howard most was Bruhl's fearlessness with unlikable qualities. Lauda wasn't warm or charming. He was cold, calculating, and sometimes cruel in his honesty. Bruhl didn't soften those edges to make the character more appealing. He trusted that truth would be more interesting than likability. Bruhl taught Howard that European actors often bring different tools to their craft. They focus less on being relatable and more on being accurate. They're willing to disappear completely into someone else's skin, even when that person isn't particularly pleasant. Howard learned from Bruhl that the best performances sometimes come from actors you've never heard of. Howard learned from Hopkins that some actors don't need directors. They need someone to say action and stay out of their way. Hopkins makes Howard feel like a witness to genius rather than its guide. 1. Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins taught Ron Howard that the greatest acting often involves doing less, not more. Howard has watched Hopkins work from afar for decades, studied his performances frame by frame, and learned that true mastery looks effortless because it's built on absolute control. Tony can communicate entire emotional landscapes with the smallest movement of his eyes, Howard said. Most actors push to make sure you feel what they're feeling. Hopkins pulls you in so close you can't look away. That magnetic quality comes from precision. Every choice Hopkins makes serves the character, never the actor's ego. What amazed Howard most was Hopkins's preparation method. Hopkins memorizes his lines hundreds of times until they become natural thought rather than recited dialogue. By the time cameras roll, he's not performing words. He's thinking about them for the first time. That technique creates spontaneity within total control. Hopkins showed Howard that great actors make directors look brilliant by making difficult scenes appear simple. When Hopkins plays a scene, the technical complexity disappears. All you see is human behavior captured perfectly. That's the highest level of craft. Howard learned from Hopkins that the ultimate goal of acting isn't to impress anyone. It's to make people forget they're watching a performance at all. When that happens, you've witnessed something close to magic. Ron Howard started as a child actor and became one of Hollywood's most respected directors. Along the way, these 7 performers showed him that great acting isn't about tricks or techniques. It's about truth, preparation, and the courage to be vulnerable on camera. They didn't just give him performances. They gave him master classes in his own craft. If you enjoyed learning about Howard's favorites, hit that subscribe button for more insights into Hollywood's greatest collaborations.